Hi, this is David with EV World News. We're talking about electric vehicles, green energy, and the stock markets. We took a couple days off and back in the studio today with our founder and editor, Bill Moore. How's it going, Bill?
Welcome back here. Should we
Uh,
talk about your golf or your not golf, your tennis tournament? Nah, let's keep
oh,
moving.
I don't know. We'll skip that. I will say this though. I was in Phoenix. I saw lots of Lucid Airs. I
Ah,
saw. I'm trying to think of what else. People I was with, I kept pointing, oh, Lucid, another Lucid Air. They didn't even know what it was, And
ah.
what people I was with, they were asking, what they should get for their
Well,
next
the
SUV, and I
the
was pointing out a Rivian R1S, and like, isn't that one of those electric thingies?
yeah. Saudi Arabia, they're the guys that are doing the investment in Rivian just gave them another $1 million.
Lucid, you mean?
Yeah, Lucid. Yep.
A billion bucks or $1 million?
Oh, you know
I
what? I have
suspect
to
it
go
was
back.
a B with a B.
I always, it's probably a
You know,
billion.
you sound kind of like oh, what
It's
was the movie? The guy's gonna um, hold the world hostage for $1 million, and
one
everybody just kind of
billion
starts
dollars.
laughing. Yeah,
Exactly.
because it was
Exactly.
a lot of money when he went into a coma in
Hey,
the '60s. Yeah,
hey, $1 million is a lot of money to me. So I easily get confused between million and billion, although I realize there's 1,000 fold between the two.
yeah,
So,
yeah. Hopefully, they don't need $1 trillion
yeah, well,
to make it happen. But
we're talking in, anymore. We don't talk about just billions. That's nothing. We got to talk about trillions to do different things, it seems, anymore. So,
no, it does seem that way. All right, so let's talk about our first topic today: Toyota hybrids or Tesla pure EVs. Experts
yeah.
weigh in on the debate. Plug-ins are better, very simply. Now, this is coming to us from Benzinga, and it's kind of I don't know. We get on this topic all the time. I
Yeah.
think we'll agree that plug-in hybrids are a great first electric vehicle for somebody
Yes.
before, so they
Yes.
can actually realize that they don't need the gas.
Yep.
And, so it's a little
Well,
bit of a different play.
yeah, you see a lot of media sort of, and I sometimes wonder, what's the bias of the writer or the editor that's asking this story to be written, because you're seeing that, well, EVs just aren't successful, and we need to really seriously have people shift over to PHEVs, plug-in electric hybrids, which are a gasoline car with a large enough battery to let the car drive some modest distance. And that modest distance can be 15, 20 miles, or it can be 50 miles or something of that nature, depending on, how much battery pack they've squeezed into the thing. The problem, as I've always, it was like for a long time, the government was promoting the use of, ethanol, what do they call it? Flex fuel
Right.
cars, right? And got to go with flex fuel because that would allow more, ethanol to be used and so on. Well, the problem is that fleets that were operating these things just weren't fueling them with ethanol or with the flex fuel. They were just going down to the gas station and and filling it up there with regular old unleaded.
Yeah, but
So
that, for good reason. There's a difference. When you fuel up with electricity, you're saving money.
yeah,
And when you're fueling up with that god awful, whatever that,
E10 or E15 or whatever. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, you were paying. It was cheaper than gas, but you got only one, or you got a third
Yeah,
less mileage.
yeah, exactly. Like
Yeah,
you say, 2/3 of the miles of you'd get on
yeah.
gasoline. I know
It was
that
just,
because I actually converted my Chevy S10 over to that. I thought, well,
oh
I'm gonna,
wow,
I can't afford a. I think I was still driving I think I was driving my Honda Accord, not a Honda Accord, the hybrid. Come on, Bill. I hate getting old. Why can't I remember this stuff? Anyway, I had the first Honda hybrid, or
okay.
yeah, 2010 Honda. Damn, I can't. What's the matter with me these days? Anyway, okay. So
Toyota's
getting back.
betting, still betting. Toyota still wants to bet on plug-in hybrids.
Well,
Now, we do know that they did replace their chairman, that Toyota, who had made that comment, about how he didn't think electric vehicles were going to make up more than 30% of the market. I think Toyota's going to have a lot of their lunch eaten by BYD.
yeah, yeah. Oh, absolutely. In fact, BYD is already selling cars in Japan.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
they're going to be the
they've set
dominant
up
car
dealerships there.
manufacturer.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're a force to be reckoned with, because and we were just talking before we came on about the Seal, the BYD Seal, and then there's Seagull and all these models that are a fraction. I mean, it's a half, but they got the latest one. The Seal is
The Seagull, the Seagull,
10,
the Seagull's
yeah,
ten to $11,000.
$11,000. I mean, for a fully electric car. So
you can't buy a gas car. The cheapest gas car you can buy in the
no,
United States is the
no,
Nissan Versa,
no.
and it's 15 and change
Yep,
for the lowest model you can get.
yep, absolutely.
And that's
So
that's huge.
that is posing a significant problem, and of course, a particular political candidate hoping to get back in the White House is saying, I'm going to put a 100% tariff on all those Japanese or Chinese
The
cars coming out
Chinese.
of, Chinese cars coming out of Mexico,
Well, he's
right?
going to have to. He's going to have to protect. We've got to protect the big three. I really, even with the failings that the big three make in the auto industry, we know that EVs are going to take over. Eventually, they've got to figure it out, but they're going to have
Yeah,
to be protected. I mean, you always hear this. What was that expression back in 2008? Too big to fail with the banks.
yeah.
But to a certain degree, so much of America is rooted in the big three auto manufacturers, from everything from
Oh,
the parts
yeah.
manufacturing and all that. And I think
Significant.
it's the duty of our government to try to protect American industry.
Yeah, and
And
at the same time, though, there are more and more arguments. In fact, I posted another one today saying, "Well, why don't Americans have cheap cars or cheap electric cars like the Chinese do?" It's because they're not letting those. This article basically is lobbying for. Well, we should let BYD, and all the others sort of start to do business here in the United States with their passenger cars.
well,
Um,
we're certainly going to have VinFast get a good hold when they introduce that VF3 that's going to be sub 20K to
yeah,
the
yeah.
US. And I don't know if that's going to be next year, if it's not going to be till 2026, but they already run it over in Vietnam. So
So
it's just
so
a matter of being here.
we have one communist quote company got a foothold here and actually talking about beginning to build factories and things here. I would suspect that probably what we do to protect American jobs is we just simply say, hey, BYD, Neo, you guys that want to come into this country to sell your cars here, you need to make them here.
Yeah.
And
Hyundai's doing it. Hyundai's about to start
yeah,
producing 300,000 EVs a year
oh yeah,
in Georgia. And
yeah,
they're creating jobs. They're going to be American made cars. The
yeah,
only criticism I was telling you before the show today is in Canada, recently a Hyundai dealer wanted $50,000 to replace a damn battery in a Hyundai Kona.
no,
And that I get that comment all the time on the videos now. And it happened one time, but it's not
yeah,
the first time that we've seen a Hyundai dealer screwing over
yeah, yeah.
a client
And I
because
and I think it would be in the interest of Hyundai management to get active in addressing that concern, saying no, we'll depending on was it out of warranty? Okay, if it's out of warranty, then
I think it was
we'll
damaged in
come
an
up with
accident.
some other way. So
I think it was a battery that was damaged in an accident and had to be
yeah,
replaced. That
yeah,
wouldn't be under warranty. And so the
right. The
car
insurance
insurance
company
company
didn't want to cover it.
simply they totaled it out.
Yeah,
They totaled the Hyundai out.
yeah, yeah,
But I'm just saying, I mean, Tesla would have replaced that for one-fourth that, because I've known people who've already had a Tesla battery replaced for 12,000.
yeah.
So, and you're talking the Tesla batteries typically are bigger than what's in the Hyundais.
Oh
So,
yeah, yeah.
yeah, so you're talking different numbers, but I'm just saying, Hyundai is no saint. But I can't really blame that on the company. This is individual dealerships who've been doing this. Because we saw
Yeah.
in that Ion Flush business where the one person had been charged $1,500, and other Hyundai dealerships offered that service for $299.
Yeah.
And all the Ion Flushes is a coolant flush for the batteries. So there's
Right.
special coolant for the batteries.
Right. Yeah.
But anyways, let's go on. I wanted to talk a little
So,
bit
well,
about.
let me just, before we go on, one more thing about the plugins is that the only value that a plug-in has is it's plugged in, right? A plug-in hybrid I'm
Right.
speaking about. The only real advantage, and what they're finding is, in fact, I did a little Google search on this, and just look up how many people plug in their plug-in hybrids, and it's a surprisingly low number of people, and part of that reason is because they don't like, if you live in an apartment, you don't have a way to charge up any plug-in car.
Right.
So
And
so they're,
slowly
if
being
you've got
addressed,
one of
slowly
these,
being addressed.
yeah, plug it
Yeah.
in, because you're going to get the best value. You're going to do the best for the environment doing that.
Now, one big difference though with a plug-in hybrid, you don't necessarily have to have a level 2 charger at home. You could just
Oh,
plug
no,
in.
no, no. Just use 110.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so
I had,
you
go ahead.
well, I was just going to say you can just about charge the thing up overnight
Oh,
with
yeah,
just a
easily,
110 because it's a small battery.
easily.
Whereas,
Yeah. I had the second plug-in hybrid Prius in the state of Nebraska, when before Toyota got serious about this. Was a kit that was put into my car, and I ran it for years, just out of the 110 light socket, hanging in the middle of the garage. So easy,
oh
no
wow,
problem.
yeah, and this you could use level 1 on an EV as well, and then when you needed to top it off, go to a level
I
3
did.
charger. Yeah.
3 years of my Fiat 500e, I used only
Well,
110.
there's a good example of making it
Yep.
work.
Yep.
Let's see. So this next article, Ford hopes small electric cars might make Americans buy EVs. This is kind of interesting because Ford, other than the Mustang, basically ditched cars, period. So that they
Yep.
got rid of the
Pretty much.
Taurus, the Fusion, the Focus, all these other cars went strictly to trucks,
Trucks
vans, and one sports car.
and one sports car. Yep.
And because that's what was selling and making money.
Yep.
Now, Ford has become sort of a upper tier American auto manufacturer because they ditched their cheaper cars.
Yeah.
And, they've tried to make their flagship vehicles. I don't know if you can really call the Mach-E really a Mustang. It's more like the Ford Explorer is now. They're kind of similar cars, but the F-150, Ford probably should have introduced a hybrid F-150 first, kind of like what Ram's doing next year.
Yeah. Well,
But
the Ranger they do have the hybrid version of the Ranger now.
the Maverick,
I'm sorry, the Maverick. Yes, I'm sorry, the
right?
Maverick.
Yeah, and it gets like 40 miles per gallon.
Yeah.
The small pickup. You don't see a lot of them, but they are out there, and you don't really hear talk about this much. But Ford wants to do this pivot to smaller EVs, and I'm not sure. They could certainly make that Maverick all electric, and that'd be kind of a good one because
Yeah.
it'd be cheaper, be a cheaper
Yep.
truck.
Yep.
And that's one of the things is, what is it? They're talking about an electric Explorer and Lincoln Aviator, but those are
Hmm.
still going to be $60,000.
Yeah, they're top of the line premium cars. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's one thing. Ford doesn't make cheap cars. I see people all the time. It's like, oh, the EVs aren't selling. Well, Tesla's not having any trouble selling their cars. Rivian doesn't have vehicles stacking up. The big EV makers don't have problems with their cars stacking up. It seems to be Ford, GM, Stellantis.
They haven't quite figured out what they need to be making, which is the point of that. The article is that they have decided that we focused in the wrong area. We need to focus on small, affordable, electric cars. Now, of course, the reason they got out of the small cars is because it wasn't the same profit that they got out of the
Well,
big pickup trucks. So
we've heard the BYD, and this is funny too, because people don't realize that BYD is a part owned by somebody from Omaha.
Hmm.
And anyways, that Warren Buffett has a big stake in it, but BYD's target is Toyota. They want to take market share from
Yeah.
the Toyota Corolla and the
Yep.
RAV4 and some of those vehicles. They don't even care about the rest of the EV market. They're determined because they're bringing in electric cars that are less expensive than gas vehicles with better features, you know, cheaper to operate,
Yeah,
more
it'd be
tech.
interesting. I wonder if they're going to come back to the. Of course, we're getting pretty late now to the Berkshire Hathaway shareholder meeting, because I had a chance to interview their VP Stella Lee, boy, 5, 10 years ago, whatever it was. It'd be nice to see if they're have representative here. We could send you down there with your phone and interview them.
Oh yeah. Yeah, never know. That would be entertaining.
Yeah.
Let's see. So the BYD Seagull, oh, now they're saying $9,698.
Oh my God! Now it's dropped from 11,000, which is the number I saw for the first series of articles. Now we're under 10. Wow. Now
Well,
is
you know
that?
what part of that is? So the US dollar keeps getting stronger. So
Yeah.
the value, it keeps making these Chinese cars look cheaper and cheaper. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the average price of an American EV is almost $60,000, but this is $10,000.
Yeah.
And that VinFast I keep talking about is going to be less than $20,000.
Yeah.
And so you're going to start seeing some companies come in and really give the big three hell in
Well,
a lot of these markets.
I a couple of days ago published an article when with this thing with Ford deciding to focus on small affordable EVs. They did this 20 years ago. They did this. They created a brand called Think, TH apostrophe NYK, Think, which was their all electric car brand. And they had an assembly facility they set up in Elkhart, Indiana. And that was a nice little affordable for the time, electric car. And it's kind of like, maybe you guys shouldn't have decided to sell that, because they had paid, I forget the exact number they paid for the company. It was a Norwegian company. And they invested $100 million to bring that car that the Norwegians were building up to American road standards. And they ended up then, because they decided to get out of the EV business in mid 2000, 2000, the 2010 timeframe. They ended up selling that thing for, I think they sold it to a company in Europe for, it was like $10 million. I mean, it took a huge hit on it. So, here they are. Maybe they should have, like General Motors and the EV1, they should have maybe more quietly stayed the course, but they didn't. So here they are getting their lunch handed to them by the Chinese. So.
Yeah, we were talking the other day about how Apple should acquire a couple of, there's about three companies that they could go after if they really wanted to, but the big three probably ought to look at some of that. I mean, I could see Rivian being a Ford brand.
Yeah.
I could see Canoo totally being a Stellantis brand.
Yeah.
And I could see
I have my 3
Aptera.
shares.
But I still see Aptera being with a tech company.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it would be pretty cool. I don't know. It'd be hard to fathom
telling you.
seeing any of the big three bet on a three-wheel
Yeah.
vehicle.
Tim Cook, come on, guy. You got all kinds of money sitting there. Help
Yeah.
this little company out and slap your logo on it, baby.
What is it? Aptera's got like 50, 60,000 pre-orders for the damn thing. I mean, we're talking in the billions of dollars of pre-orders.
Yeah.
And they just need a little push to get over the hump so they can
Yep.
manufacture.
And Apple, part of the reason they got out of Titan is they decided to put their money into AI technology. So why not take some of that same technology and apply that into the Aptera, so you can get in that thing and drive across country on sun power and let the AI take you there.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about this John White essay. Okay.
Yeah. Now
So
it's called Car Wars.
yeah.
And if you look it up in the search engine, there on EV World, you'll come up with very long but very thoughtful essay. He is a former professor in, I think it was physics or something like that, at University of Dublin in Ireland, and very, very thoughtful article to think about how do we make this transition. How do we go from a world dominated by dependence on climate changing fossil fuels? How do we get to something that's more sustainable? And he really does a thoughtful job. And basically, he's saying there that, of course, basically electric cars are going to be inevitable, but we also need to look at all these other options, from more walkable cities to improved and better public transit. And of course, then electric cars where they're appropriate. So it's long. It's a long essay, but I think
Well,
it's certainly worth looking at.
he has some interesting stats in there. He's saying that today, almost 100 million automobiles are sold around the globe, of which 30 million are sold in China alone.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's a staggering number. Now, I saw where they're expecting in China this year for half of all sales to be, they may hit half of all sales as EVs this year.
Oh, wouldn't. Well, wasn't it? I thought that we were already at like 60%.
I've seen a couple different numbers on this.
Okay.
There was a month where they had
but
60% of
but
new car sales here.
dwarfing the under 10% here in the United States.
Oh,
Dwarfing.
by far, by far. In 2009, Chinese vehicle sales passed the United States, 11 million. And
Mhm.
2012, they passed Europe at 19 million.
Yeah.
And
Well, you,
that
you
is,
got a population of over 1 billion people, which of course is 3 times the size of our population here. That was a culture that for decades, the only thing people could afford were bicycles, or using their public transit, and then eventually invested in subways in Beijing, and then high speed bullet trains and things. So they were a society that, boy, they were ready for the private automobile, just to give them the sanctuary from
yeah.
from all the other people around them. I remember, I guess I may have told this story before, but I was sitting in a private car belonging to the gentleman who had invited me to see his battery plant in China, and I'm sitting in his state of the art Audi, and I'm looking, and we're sitting on Chenang Boulevard, which is the main street through Beijing, where the big hidden, forbidden city and the big portrait of Mao on the wall. Things. So we're sitting there, and this transit bus comes up, and it is absolutely packed, cheek to jowl with people. And there's this one young lady who is literally face is pressed up against the window of the bus, and she's looking down at me, and I could just hear her thoughts. Right, you lucky whatever the equivalent of SOB is in Chinese, riding that fancy, European car, and I'm stuck here riding, with all these smelly people on the bus with me. So I can, they were ready for that. And of course, even back in 2002 when I was there, traffic was crazy. I don't know. You can buy a car, but I'm not sure that's the best way to get around some of these Chinese cities. Really.
No, I get that. I get that. He gives some interesting stats. He talks about Tesla's numbers. They made 76,000 cars up through 2017.
Mm-hmm.
And then
it exploded.
Right. And let's see, they sold 1.8 million last year between their 4 assembly plants.
Yeah.
And that still wasn't quite as many as BYD did. And BYD is growing faster than Tesla.
Them out. Yep. Edge
Yeah.
them out.
So we hear about Tesla all the time here in the United States. The BYD story doesn't really make the news as much because they don't sell it.
If we walked out on the street and asked somebody, Who's BYD? What is that? A
You'd
music?
probably think it was an underwear brand or something.
Yeah. Well, Warren also, owns a company that makes underwear. So,
Hmm. Yeah. Now this guy, he goes into the only problem with EVs is that the grid is so dirty. And, we've gotten better about that. So worldwide, global grid was only 10% green. But in the United States, it's like 40% green.
oh yeah.
So
I don't know if we had a bit of a windstorm here this morning. It was rocking the house on occasion. And so I thought, well, I'll just see what the wind is doing. 50%. I'm a little surprised by that, but 50% of our power here in our community that you and I share was coming from the wind. 50%.
it doesn't
Um,
surprise me. It's so damn windy here.
well, yeah, it's a little frustrating if you don't want to get out and do some
When
things
you're a tennis
outside.
player, it's not the
Yeah,
most friendly thing. I used to kid you because I used to live in Tennessee. In Tennessee, the wind didn't blow. It was humid. We'd have the same temperature here as where I lived in Tennessee, but here it's windy and cool, and there
right.
it's
Yeah,
humid. You're sweating to death.
yeah.
Let's see.
But
Um,
but Tennessee's a beautiful state. It really is. So
yeah, but that's more for specific for Papillion. But we don't have as much solar up here in this part of the country, but we sure do have wind. Anyways,
yeah,
but that Charles White story is on Car Wars, hydrocarbons, lithium, and the greening grid.
yep,
It's
yep.
it's worth a good read, but it is
It is.
quite a
It's really
long.
a good read. Yep.
It's really a long article. It's not a normal news article. He wrote a legit essay on this.
Oh yeah, it's an essay. I kept scrolling. Says, when's this thing going to end? I keep scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. But he makes really good points. Well, hey, while we're on the subject of Ireland,
Oh,
should we talk about whiskey?
yeah, we'll talk about this for a second. This is kind of a funny article, actually. Your whiskey may soon be made with a huge brick toaster battery,
Battery.
and
Yeah.
I'm not real sure about this.
Okay.
I am.
Here's the deal. Think of your water heater, and your water heater is connected to solar panels and wind, right? And when the wind blows and the sun shines, that energy is going into the heating elements inside this thing, like the heating element in your electric water heater. And they figure, well, let's do something with all that hot water. And one of the things, of course, we won't go too much into your background, but you have a vested interest in whiskey distillation.
Yeah, well, and
Besides your
I'm
interest in
trying to
electric
I'm
cars.
raising money right now for a distillery,
Yeah,
um, and this is quite interesting because I'm going to see what's available here because
yeah,
this would be interesting to see some of that,
yeah.
you
Why
know,
not? Why not use
funding
that?
for the manufacturing. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
it's really quite interesting that these guys are doing. Diageo will replace natural gas-fired heat with heat batteries at its production sites in Kentucky and Illinois.
Yeah, so that's just across the state line from your the where the
Yeah,
distillery's going
yeah,
in.
we're doing Indiana. Now, so I don't know if you know, bourbon is all about a certain type of hard water that comes in a
Oh
certain
no.
basin that you only can get in Kentucky,
Yeah.
Indiana, I think Pennsylvania,
Okay.
and I think there's one other state that shares some of the same, but
So it has
otherwise it's all
it's
whiskey. So whiskey and bourbon are
the
essentially
minerals.
the
It's the
same,
minerals in the
other than the
water.
minerals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
And in the products that I have on the shelf behind me, in some cases they were manufactured somewhere else. They use limestone that
mm,
they filtered the water through special limestone that came from Kentucky
yeah.
to make it into bourbon.
So I gather
And
all that hard water we have in here at Papillion probably isn't suitable for bourbon then, is it?
our water doesn't taste that great. Our water is not adding any flavor to bourbon. So yeah, that's why nobody's making whiskey and bourbon in Nebraska.
Yeah.
They make plenty of beer here. You can buy all the craft
Oh
beer
yeah.
you want
And
here.
we've got a winery just down the road here a few miles. So
Oh, that's true. That's true.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, Silver
Yeah.
Wings.
Yeah. We're a heavily German influenced beer
Hmm.
drinking society up
Yeah,
here.
jawohl.
But anyways, industrial heat company Rondo Energy's heat batteries use electric heating elements like a toaster or oven to turn clean power into high temperature heat.
And
This will
that's it.
eliminate 17,000 metric tons of direct greenhouse gas emissions.
Yep.
Hmm. The equivalent of 4,000 gas-powered cars being taken off the road. That's pretty big difference in
Yeah.
emissions.
Yeah, yeah. That's why I saw this and I thought, well, this article isn't particularly involved with electric cars and things,
No,
but it
but it
certainly is a
was
great,
interesting.
great
Yeah, I'm
use
going to
of.
share this
Yeah.
information. Anyways, Bill, that's all I've got time for on today's show,
All
folks.
right.
I see we've
Well,
got lots of people watching, and
yep.
thank you for chiming
Thanks.
in.
Thanks,
And
everybody.
please like and subscribe, share this if you can, and leave us a comment. Let us know if there's something you'd like us to talk about in the
Yes.
future, or
Yep.
express your viewpoints, good or bad. I like the bad ones. I like the bad ones.
Honda Insight. I finally remembered the name.
Oh, okay. All right. Anyways,
Bye bye.
folks, have a great day.